Hello and welcome to our short workflow video on Zoom 3. This is the professional version. I've already loaded an image and this image is 2000 pixels wide and 1123 pixels high. Let's quickly go through what we can do with the settings here, to what extent these settings help us, what we can improve in the settings to get a better result. The first step is to open the raw module, which is up here in the professional version. Here we have the image pre-development. Let's zoom in a little and see what we're working with. I'd say overall the picture looks a little blurry. It has a slightly blurred look. There's also a bit of noise, but that's not an issue here. We could deal with the noise by doing some basic denoising here. Let's carefully move the slider to denoise it a bit. That's a matter of taste though. The image is already pretty smooth, so maybe I'll reduce it a little more. We could also add some sharpness here just by moving the sharpness control up a bit, but then we see the noise increases, so we have to be careful there too. But we can counter that with a bit more denoising. These decisions are all really based on personal preference. See what you want to do differently. Maybe I want some more color. Then I go back to the color area here and make some corrections, more or less color. Maybe reduce chromatic aberrations a little on contours to prevent color edges here. You can do all that in the raw module. You can then apply it all to the image. We won't save that as a profile. And now we have a new base image which is used here for scaling. And now we've reached a point where we want to scale the image. We've prepared everything we want. So we set a zoom factor, either using the scaling at the top here, using the factors, using the slider, using the percentage, or by directly setting the pixel size you want. For example, 5000 pixels wide. Another option is to set the output size again here. A DPI size is preset down here. We can reduce it to 144 DPI or back to 300 DPI. We can only do that for output on a printer, for example. And straight away, we can see the size of our image at 300 DPI in centimeters, in millimeters, in inches, in picas, with the width on the left and the height on the right. In parallel to that, we have the values up here, 5000 pixels wide, these are the widths, 2800 pixels high, these are the heights. And so, if I want to print out my picture at 50 centimeters, for example, I just have to enter that here. And in the new version, we can also print directly from here. To do that, just select the print symbol up here. That opens the print dialog for your system, where you can then print out the image. But before that, we have to finish our scaling. If you press the print button, you can either print to PDF or to a document. If I were to click print here now, the image would be scaled and then sent to PDF with those settings, or sent to the printer, whatever you choose. If we now calculate the zoom here, we get our scaled result. We can either save it from here, or we can take a look to see if we like it, or if we need a bit more quality. With the zoom function or the other magnifying glass here, I'll set it back to 200% so we see a slightly larger section. That basically looks pretty good with the contours. Maybe have a look up here. That all looks really good too, as good as you could expect. But I think you could do with a little more sharpness and maybe a bit more structure. So in the first run, we can take a look at what comes out of the scaling with our settings and then decide how we want to proceed. Let's close the output size here again, so we have a bit more space. And of course, one way we can control that is through the quality mode, which you can select here. For instance, let's take a look at this in quality mode 8, or 2 levels higher. There's a total of 10 to choose from. We calculate it again in quality level 8. It takes a bit longer, of course, because there are more calculations. And now let's take another look at the area here. That already looks better, slightly sharper, a bit more grip. And if you want to keep comparing a certain area, just move the main view of the image to the middle, or maybe a bit to the right. Then as soon as you calculate the zoom, it takes a moment, then this area comes up here straight away and you can compare it here directly. So, how do we get a bit more sharpness in there now? We can do that with the photographic options. There are a whole load of extra options you can use. Or you can just click the selection box and say, don't just sharpen a little, but a little more. Another option is to set the sharpness manually. I'll reset it to the original value. Now let's add just a little more sharpness. Let's turn it up a little, calculate again, and take a look. So, let's see our results. This has gotten even sharper, and you can see this all stands out a little. It did in the original image and still does here too. We can now use the new intelligent details to provide a bit more structure wherever the image is generally pretty undefined or very shiny. And we'll do that down here with the intelligent details. Let's reset the quality mode for a minute. Makes it a bit quicker. I usually work with quality mode 6 or 7 when I'm trying things out. And when I'm finished with my settings, I switch to a higher quality mode for the final calculation. Let's use the default quality mode 6. It's the default quality mode for good reason, because it's the best compromise between calculation time and quality. And these intelligent details are active by default, but only at 25%. The individual motifs are down here. So if I click technology here, a value of 35% is preset. These motifs generally just set the suggested character of this slider. And here, the high quality mode for these intelligent details ensures that additional structural textures are used to create these microstructures. I'm deliberately turning it up a little so we can see it clearly in the video. Let's calculate at 50%, and we can now see these fine structures in the image that we didn't have before. This object that crosses over here was previously quite smooth, and if we look at it now, let's use the cursor keys here, we can see there's a little bit of structure in it. Let's turn that up a bit in the intelligent details. I'll set it to 80%. And we'll find even more structure there. We can see a bit more there, and of course, we also have it in other areas too. Here again, it's about your personal preference. You decide what you like. The default settings are at a pretty good level already if you want to print the image. Once we've chosen the size we want, we said 50 centimeters at 300 dpi. The quality mode, we choose right at the end. We've set the sharpness, and let's reset that back for a moment. We'd set a bit more sharpness. We also set intelligent details. So let's say right at the very end. Okay, I want to calculate that in a very high quality mode, quality level 9 in this case. 10 really takes quite a bit longer. That's really the highest quality level going. It uses the new super sampling at the level 400%, which means the resulting image would not be internally scaled to 5,900 pixels, but to 4 times the width and 4 times the height. The result would then be scaled down to these 5,900 pixels, providing even better contour fidelity. But that should really only be done in exceptional cases. Let's recalculate. It's going to take a little while because we're in quality level 9 and we've told the computer you may need a little time, but please do the best job you can. And that's exactly what it does. And a calculation time of 15 seconds, it's not too bad for the result we get here. Let's use the cursor keys again to zoom out a bit. And we can then take a look at the before and after comparison. We really get very clean contours here. we really see how nice it is here on this arch, how well it works. We can also put them next to each other up here. This is the third view, as we always see the same section in the before and after comparison. Of course, it's also important to note that the image resulting from the scaling can only ever be as good as the original image, because we're not using any generative AI here. So we don't generate a new image, but we scale the image from the information that the image itself provides. The crucial advantage here is that you retain the copyright for the image at all times, and that you continue to own it. So I hope I was able to give you a little insight into an effective order for this workflow, and have fun trying it out.